Welcome, everyone, to the April 25th Eugene City Council meeting. Welcome to everyone here and at home. First up is a public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. What?
They can't hear.
Oh, nothing? All right, then better?
Yeah.
All right. A hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. We have 36 people signed up to speak. First up is J. Norton Cabell, followed by Ralph McDonald.
Mayor Piercy, members of the council, my name is Norton Cabell. I live in, I'm not sure, let's see, Mr. Brown's ward, whatever that is, in Eugene. I chair the Intergovernmental Housing Policy Board, a creature of the City of Eugene, the City of Springfield, and the Lane County. Our mission is to increase the supply of affordable housing in the community. For 20 plus years, part of our responsibility was to vet and recommend to you all specific projects for funding with home funds, among other sorts of things. That's changed within the last year, and that's no longer part of our mandate. Nonetheless, you have before you a proposal to spend home funds on 3 projects in Eugene. The Housing Policy Board has looked at these projects, considers that they meet the criteria that we've been using for 20 plus years in evaluating these projects, and I can't speak officially because we don't take an official position, but I feel comfortable in assuring you that the Housing Policy Board would recommend these proposals to you unanimously were it within its purview.
Thank you. Ralph McDonald is next, followed by John Borowski. Yes.
Mayor Piercy and City Council, I'm Ralph McDonald, and I'm Vice Chair of the Sheena Neighborhood Association, formerly the Crest Drive Neighborhood Association. I live in Betty Taylor's Ward 2. And at our April board meeting, Sheena affirmed our letter to the Council as part of the Council of South Eugene Neighborhoods letter asking for a community-driven process on the South Willamette Special Area Zone that would lead toward a refinement plan or something like a refinement plan. Also, the transportation elements in the plan be looked at, and that the multimodal mixed-use designation of the plan be removed. Just wanted to reiterate that that position of the Sheena neighborhood organization remains. I'm wearing 2 hats tonight, also a member of the South Willamette Neighbors, and in the late development, the South Willamette Neighbors held a emergency meeting, or at least a spur-of-the-moment meeting to discuss the news of Mayor Piercy calling for the termination of the South Willamette Special Area Zone, and we wanted to thank the mayor for that. We see that as an encouraging, positive step, and we would, as part of that step, we would certainly like to see the formal withdrawal of the land use application to the DLCD that's part of the plan. We think that with that cleared, a community-driven process can go forward. Thank you.
John Borowski is next, followed by Casey White.
I'll sit down tonight. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is John Borowski, and I'm addressing you tonight as a member of the Eugene Planning Commission. One of my roles as a commissioner is to be a member of the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee. Before you this evening is an action item to approve the 2017 one-year action plan for the use of the CDBG funding. I would encourage you to approve the plan as presented in your packet. This year's plan does a great deal to help accomplish some of the very difficult tasks facing our community today. Some of the things the plans will help fund are as follows. In the area of affordable housing, there are funds for land acquisition for affordable housing, emergency home repairs, housing rehabilitation loans, and down payment assistance for low-income home buyers. In the economic development category, we have the Business Development Loan Fund, which helps with new and expanding businesses. We also have funding for the Eugene Micro Enterprise Training, which is NEDCO. For the Human Services Commission, there's an allocation of $350,000, part of the over $1 million that is contributed to the HSC by the City of Eugene. And finally, the area that the committee worked on the most is over $1 million being appropriated for human services capital facilities. This money will be going to serve to several local agencies and nonprofits and will allow them to continue providing, or in some cases, increase capacity to some of our most vulnerable population. Projects may include repairing a roof on a facility where vital services are provided, and the provider would have to choose to spend money to fix the roof with valuable program money or let it deteriorate further. Or in another case, an upgrade to refrigeration that will enable more fresh foods to be distributed to people in need. I would like to acknowledge all the work that all the work that the agencies that submitted an RFP have done to comply with the many regulations that receiving federal funds requires, and thank them for providing the services that are needed. I would also like to thank Stephanie Jennings and Nicole Nowak and the rest of the staff for bringing an innovative approach to helping the agencies navigate through this rigorous process. We hope that this year's strategy will result in a more efficient use of staff time and resources, both by the city and the agencies serving the community, which will help us with our overall goals outlined in the action plan.
Thank you. Casey White is next, followed by Tom Mulhern.
Hello, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Casey White, and I live in Junction City. I, with my partner, Jeff Brody, operate Lonesome Whistle Farm. We are 11 miles from here on River Road. We grow beans, grains, and popcorn, and fresh milled flour. I'm here this evening with my fellow farmers of the downtown Lane County Farmers Market. It is an essential part of our community. It is recognized nationally as one of the highest quality and most beautifully displayed, also the most diverse markets in our city, for a city of its size. I receive comments every week from customers at my market stand and from locals and tourists alike. They absolutely love our farmers market. It is truly the best feature of our town. For years now, we have been bursting at the seams at our current site. We make the most of it and continue to blow minds each week regarding the variety of healthy foods that our community can produce, but we are running out of space. The Lane County Farmers Market provides a retail home for 80 local farms, and we are provided access to thousands of local food buyers each week. But we are simply at capacity. We also have accessibility issues, and we need a more family-friendly space. The plan for using the butterfly lot would keep the farmers market in the heart of the downtown and also keep it in its original location where it began 100 years ago. We desperately need to provide an enhanced space for our customers, but also to provide a space for young and beginning farmers to pursue their agricultural endeavors. This winter, my husband Jeff and I had the pleasure of visiting the Olympia Farmers Market. They have a permanent covered market with many amenities like permanent stalls, refrigerators, pastry cases, lighting, and plenty of electricity. Olympia has a population of 50,000 people, and their site is infinitely better than what we have currently in Eugene. In the first year of the Olympia's new covered farmers market site, vendors' sales more than doubled, and several offshoot businesses popped up alongside it. With the support of all of you and the support of our larger community, we can create an amazing site that does justice to the hard work that our farmers do each day. Our city deserves an improved market venue in the heart of downtown to honor its strong agricultural history and its amazingly bright future. We also want to thank the council for setting aside the $500,000 of funds to improve for our future site. Please give us your support for an improved site at the Butterfly parking lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom Mulhern is next, followed by Joseph Newton.
Good evening. I'm Tom Mulhern, Director of Catholic Community Services of Lane County, and I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Community Development Block Grant proposal before you, particularly the Nonprofit Capital Projects section, which benefits a number of local nonprofits, and it's just been a really creative way for the city to support the infrastructure of nonprofit services. This year, in our case, we've applied for funding to put in a freezer and a cooler for the food distribution program at our food distribution program there on West 6th Avenue. We provide food assistance there to more than 10,000 low-income Eugene residents every year, and working in cooperation with Food for Lane County. And in fact, we are the largest distributor of the food collected by Food for Lane County here in the metro area. The amount of fresh perishable food coming to us through the Food for Lane County network is projected to increase by 50% over the next 5 years, while the amount of non-perishable cans and boxes is projected to stay the same. So it's wonderful to get fresh, ready-to-eat food. Our customers love it, but it does create a need for more cold storage, which is the nature of our request. I want to tell you about a lady who came in looking specifically for fresh, ready-to-eat things a couple of months ago. She was living with her 3 children and her mother, and the 5 of them were at that point living in their car because they had lost their housing, and they were in that awkward, painful, stressful state between living someplace and living someplace else. And so they needed food that didn't have to be stored, could easily be prepared and served, and we were able to provide them with a good supply of these kind of food items. And the woman was so grateful, she broke down in tears. She was so stressed out by the tremendous stressful situation of trying to raise a family and living in a car. And that's just the kind of thing that happens every day at Catholic Community Services, and we're honored to be in this community, to be able to help residents when they're struggling, and to do so in partnership with the City of Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Newton is next, followed by Leanne Adelia.
Joseph Newton, Whitaker, so Ward 7. Martin Luther King Day should be a day for really celebrating, and this year I was on my way to that celebration when probably the most ironic occurrence that could possibly happen came about heading down to the stadium, because my route takes me down First Street under the Washington Jefferson Street Bridge. A whole community of people who I had shared smiles with time and again over the years, a group of people who, pretty simple people, they didn't have much of anything, but usually just sweetest smiles as I go by, and they are enjoying that basic bit of shelter from the rain and the elements that bridge provided. It was a community, pretty steady community actually, of 30 or 40 people. Apparently a few of them had problems containing their bowel movements. That's a call to put a restroom in, goddammit. That's a call to put a restroom in and maybe send out a social worker or two. This is what a sane and decent community does when you have a community of absolutely vulnerable people and a few need restroom facilities and can't walk the 200 yards down to. You don't block off the most essential safety. As a community, you have obligations. It's not a nicety. It's not an option, folks. It's your obligation under the federal Constitution. It's your obligation under international law. It's your obligation under basic decency. I have to remind you that most people in this community ascribe to one of the three branches, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, the people of the book, all of whom recognize the book of Genesis, all of whom recognize the story of Sodom. There is a fate, and a rightful fate, for those communities who oppress the poor and the traveler, and that is the fate of Sodom. It is the fate of destruction. A community that oppresses those who have nothing has no rightful claim to safety.
Leanna Delia is next, followed by James New.
Good evening. Thank you for staying late to listen to us. I appreciate it. I'm Leanna Delia, homeless recently from Roseburg. I got to tell you, Roseburg's a mean little town if you're homeless. I lived there 30 years, and I couldn't hack it there. We moved here because we thought we'd maybe have more of a chance up here. Indeed, we have. We've been treated with kindness, generosity, and a lot of forbearance. We're fortunate. We have a camper. I agree with Joseph. The need for facilities to get cleaned up is dire. You know, if you're not mentally ill when you're homeless, it doesn't take long before you start feeling kind of shocky and weird. Your self-esteem and your self-respect goes down because you can't get washed up. You start to stink. It's hard to find receptacles to, well, I've given up recycling except for, cans that are worth money. But to find places to put plastic and all the things I did before when I had a home, I don't do anymore. I just carry my little bundle. Every time I see a trash can, I get rid of it. So I don't know what the answers are. I'm just moved here. I'm really grateful for the time, and I can tell that you're genuinely concerned. The wave is coming. The summer is only going to bring it on more. If we can just get some help to some of these people who don't have any hope at all, I can't imagine what it's like to have the bridges closed off and not be able to be dry when it's been raining like this. It's really rough. So thank you for the kindness and generosity of Eugene, and thank you, Catholic Services. You've been feeding us. And I appreciate it, and St. Vincent de Paul. So thank you, and good luck with this problem. We'll do what we can.
James New, followed by Dana Jo Cook.
My name is James New. I live in Ward 7. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have the greatest respect for the 21 young people who have filed a lawsuit with the U.S. government and federal court, because for more than 50 years, the government has known fossil fuels have contributed to climate change, has failed to implement plans to phase out greenhouse gas emissions, and has provided incentive for consumption of fossil fuels. The plaintiffs maintain all governments have a duty under the public trust doctrine to protect the public from present and future carbon dioxide emissions that would pollute the atmosphere and lead to climate change. The Eugene Municipal Charter states councilors shall treat their office as a public trust. In July of 2014, the City of Eugene adopted a climate recovery ordinance that would reduce community-wide fossil fuel use 50% from 2010 levels by 2030. By 2020, all city-owned facilities and city operations shall be carbon neutral with assessments and progress goal reports to the public. I applaud the Mayor and Council for adopting this ordinance. Part of the follow-up on the climate recovery ordinance was for analysis and assessment of trends in current energy use for the community. This assessment would have reflected the increased trend of crude by rail shipments on the Union Pacific tracks through Eugene. In September of 2015, Fire Chief Groves submitted a report to Council at the direction of Council Surratt on the increase of crude by rail in Eugene. I thank both Ms. Surratt and Chief Groves for the follow-up on this topic. This response to the crude by rail issue was initiated by a citizen inquiry. The United States Congress has not implemented the 1990 policy option for stabilizing climate or the 1991 Congressional Office of Technology assessment to reduce the nation's CO2 emissions. I ask that the City of Eugene formulate an ad hoc committee to see that the goals are met and report progress assessments to the public as was adopted in the Climate Recovery Ordinance. Our generation should be taking the charge on climate change reduction for a better future for generations to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Dana Jo Cook is next, followed by Arwen Mas Despain.
Hi, I'm Dana Jo Cook. I live over in the Fairfield neighborhood. I guess that's Ward 7. I've worked with the unhoused advocacy groups in Eugene going on 5 years. Everything from handing out burritos at the camps to sock and tarp drives. And I know many of our unhoused community members by name, and they know mine. I wanted to speak today in honor of one of our Eugene citizens who died on Saturday at the park next door to my house. I was in my backyard gardening when I heard the most fearful guttural yell that will stay with me for the rest of my life. A man had collapsed. He was unresponsive. He stopped breathing. We couldn't find his pulse. While one of his friends started CPR, another called 911, and the EMTs arrived. They did CPR on the man for about 15 to 20 minutes, trying to save his life. His 4 friends cried and watched on, and I comforted them the best that I could. They told me that their friend, whose name was Art, had been battling a chest infection, taking antibiotics. His death was very sudden. His body laid there for 3 hours waiting for the medical transport team to arrive. Despite the way that the EPD and the media portrayed the man's death, implying that he was just a transient, not from our area, that he was drinking in the park, I was there before he passed, and he was not drinking. He also has been a member of our community for quite some time. His death, I feel, was a direct result of his inability to find shelter out of the rain so he could fight his illness. Closing off dry places with fences and not making more camps for people to get out of the elements, not letting people rest, not putting our tax dollars to building shelters. These are the reasons people suffer and die. And the trauma of his death will stay with me and his friends and his family for a long time. These projects, like the fence projects, I feel they further the suffering of people, the criminalization of our most vulnerable, and these are the sole reasons people keep dying. And I don't know what it's going to take for everyone to start doing the right thing. I beg that you all do. We don't live in 1810 anymore where people should be dying from the common cold. Thank you.
Thank you. Arwen Mas Despain is next, followed by Sue Serlupe.
My name is Arwen Mas Despain. I live in Ward 1. I work for OHSU serving medically fragile children in Lane County, and I volunteer for Occupy Medical, although my comments tonight are my own and don't represent either of those organizations. I'm here to address 2 subjects, the first being the anti-homeless fences, and the second being the importance of showing solidarity with Oregon's Asian community and addressing comments by Commissioner Stewart about Vietnamese immigrants. First, I'd like to say a word about solidarity. Even if we don't agree on the issues, I'd like to think that we have shared some kind of common agreement about the value of basic human rights. And I've listened with great interest to Greg Evans when presenting Occupy Medical with the Human Rights Award, and to our city manager when he spoke to the MLK crowd after the march, talking about the city's efforts to further MLK's dream of equal opportunity for all. And certainly, I think there are some meaningful projects that deserve recognition because they actually lead to stability and rehabilitation and empowerment and betterment of our community members rather than marginalization. I need to say quite bluntly that you cannot be in solidarity with human rights while allowing those fences to go up. For those of us who work hard to reduce the symptoms of exposure, sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and neglect amongst our unhoused neighbors, it's hard not to take those fences personally. I just learned that 20,000 or more are now slated for more fences. And honestly, it makes me question what you all value most. Similarly, I think a real commitment to human rights includes listening when a community steps forward to address racism in your ranks. Racism is an unfortunate part of our culture in Oregon and across the U.S., and solidarity means taking it really seriously. Even if you don't understand or agree, I think if you value human rights and equal opportunity for all, then it includes standing hand in hand with Oregon's Asian community and saying, I'm listening, I'm learning, how can I support you? Instead, I've heard a lot of minimizing and reinterpretation, kind of general dismissal by our mayor and others in the media. Again, it makes me question what you value most and who you are representing. My grandparents taught me to stand up for what's right, even if it's uncomfortable, and I will say I'm very uncomfortable talking to you all. These issues are important to me, and I think many people in this room, so I hope you are listening. More importantly, I hope through your actions that you will show solidarity with all of our efforts to improve equal access for all in this community. Thank you.
Sue Saralupe is next, followed by Crystal Webb.
Hi, my name is Sue Saralupe, and I am in Ward 1. Thank you for your service. I also want to thank Representative Zelinka for coming by for that tour. It was really fun to show you around. And when you were there, you may have noticed other rescue groups that we were working with. Catholic Family Services or Catholic Community Services were there giving breakfasts, and Food Not Bombs were there. We have Burrito Brigade. We had people registering people to vote. There's a whole bunch of people that work with Occupy Medical in order to do the huge amount of work that we do. We are still keeping within our 4-hour period of giving medical help to folks, approximately 40 to 60 patients served every single Sunday, and that's about as many as we can jam responsibly into that period. But we're doing our best in our hospitality tent, which you noticed there was a long line out there. We had been saying that we serve approximately 150 to 200 people food, and we give them hygiene services. And as of the beginning of this month, Springfield, they passed the anti-kindness ordinance, in which if you give something to someone who is panhandling, you can get a $50 fine. As soon as that passed, our numbers in hospitality shot up. They went to 250 people that we're feeding, and people are coming to us hungry. And last Sunday, 297 people that we are feeding. That's going to continue. And I don't know how to do this. According to the pattern that we see with higher hospitality numbers for hungry visitors, this indicates that the following month we will be seeing an increase in patients for malnutrition-related issues. So one of the things that we also say at Occupy Medical is a roof is good medicine. And not only it saves people from exposure, but the fences that have gone up is particularly targeting a group of unhoused women who chose that spot to safely keep themselves from predation. They are now being forced to sleep by the river, which is not safe. With those fences, we are going to see more people come to us with exposure issues, UTIs, because they're in a place where there isn't water fountains, they don't have access to bathrooms anymore, increase infections because they don't have places to wash up anymore. It's making rescue operations like ours taxed out. Please rethink this.
Crystal Webb is next, followed by Madeline Smith.
Hi, my name is Crystal Webb, and I live in Ward 2. Our unhoused citizens are living under circumstances many of us may never be able to relate to. Maybe we should all be blamed for criminalizing our most vulnerable community members. While we are all too busy pointing fingers, human beings are dying. It's time we found some common ground to work on real solutions. Building fences is not a solution. It is not compassionate, nor is it innovative. In fact, quite the opposite. Building fences only ensures that a bad situation will worsen. It is crucial that we learn to work together as a community to find better ways to help our fellow citizens. And in that spirit of community, Voices United for Humanity and Badass Freedom Fighters invite you all to break bread with us Thursday, April 28th from noon until 2 p.m. Lunch is served every Thursday at First and Washington by the fence. So hopefully it doesn't rain because we will not be able to seek shelter. We would also like to extend that invitation to everyone in this room and everyone at home watching. Thank you.
Madeline Smith is next, followed by Todd Kieser.
Oh, I'm sliding. Hello, my name is Madeline Smith. I live at 594 West 11th Avenue, and I've lived there since 1979, feeling safe. And I guess I want to give a historical note, because of course I'm against those fences. And I don't know who has fences inside their minds that make them think that they're doing anything good by trying to fence people who are defenseless in the way that they're doing it. It horrifies me. I was a caseworker in New York City in the 1960s, and it was New York City, Harlem. And we dropped everything, the caseworkers did, if there was an eviction, to call the landlord and get a stay of eviction. Because we had all the experience in the 1930s, in the heart of the Depression, when there were tons of people who would stand outside any housing where someone was being evicted to prevent it. So there were good rules in the 60s. And we didn't lose that till after President Carter. Then we became government is a problem and don't give things to people. And we're beginning to see with Bernie Sanders that we can't keep doing that we have to turn it around. But we also have climate change, where we do not know at what point we're going to have such severe weather that tons of us are going to be out of the electricity and what we need to keep us warm. So we're going to be cold whether we have indoor or outdoor. And I don't know what makes people move to try and be preventative of the catastrophes that seem to be in store for us. But I'm hoping that we keep continuing, but at a much faster pace, to take care of the people who are most vulnerable. Because what kind of society are we if we don't take care of them? And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Todd Kieser is next, followed by Carrillo Rede White.
Hi, my name is Todd Kieser, and I'm in Ward 4. The last time I was here, I mentioned that maybe your views needed to mature, and it wasn't meant as an insult. It's that we grew up in a time where the economy was so different. As was just mentioned by Madeline, things have changed so drastically as far as the social services available for mental health, the minimum wage and how far it doesn't go anymore, the housing costs, medical costs. It's not what it was when I was 20 or 30 years old. And the homeless population isn't the population from 30 years ago either. And the views on this of the community and people who want to blame people for being lazy and that's why they're homeless or because they're from out of town, it's just a bunch of hogwash now. and we need to get over it. We have to understand that the real issue is the economic conditions of the country and locally, where 40% of the people are living from paycheck to paycheck, and it just takes one medical bill to put somebody on the course to homelessness. This is the reality. When I'm standing outside with these fellow protesters, and I hear some really gut-wrenching stories, one of which you've already heard tonight, and maybe you'll hear some others if they can stand to tell the stories again. There's a real cost to a stupid $67,000 fence that solves nothing. We have to be more creative. We have to have a humanity when we make these decisions. I know that was a mess. I read all the news about it. Yes, there was this mess, there was that mess. But what did you really solve? Those people have to go make a mess someplace else now. We could have done more. I don't know what else could or should have been done, but a fence wasn't the answer, because it hasn't solved anything. You've made people sicker. You've heard Occupy Medical, 2 people in a row tell you you've made people sicker. What part of that don't you understand? So I'm asking you to, again, mature your viewpoints. It's not the 1980s anymore. This is 2016, where we have a crisis on our hands, and right now the crisis is of conscience of government and our tax dollars being spent in a way that we can live with ourselves and go to sleep at night knowing that at least we did the right thing. And it would be cheaper. It just doesn't make sense. Find your humanity. Don't put up any more of these fences. Stop making people sicker, and stop taxing Occupy Medical more than they already are.
Thank you. Carrillo Renee White is next, followed by Patty Hine.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm in Ward 2. My name is Corey Alrede White. At the public forum, there seems to be sometimes an invisible divide between the speaker and the council, where the speaker stands here testifying as to what you should do or what he and she does that you don't do. But the fact is, when it comes to the climate crisis, we're all in this together. Together we face one enemy, an enemy born from a system premised on the control and exploitation of our planet and its resources, an enemy unlike any before it, one that cannot be neutralized with a drone or imprisoned, one that we cannot flee from or reason with. As I see it, we only have 2 options. We can either ignore it and just hope our prayers are answered, or we can fight it. We can reject a broken and soulless system in favor of a new one. The faceless enemy attacks us with weapons drawn from our own atmosphere, yet weapons in an atmosphere we cannot control. This crisis is confounding and its scope is paralyzing. And in this fight, we've been guaranteed no victory. I want to share a passage from a book I read this weekend, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. It's an autobiography/history lesson written by the author directly to his teenage son. In pulling from this work, I make no comparison between my testimony here tonight and the scope and the magnitude of Coates' work. I mean only to share an edict that Coates says is, quote, key to all living, and directly deals with the importance of togetherness and control in the face of potential defeat. Talking about the wisdom in the streets, Coates writes, I think now of the old rule that held that should a boy be set upon in the streets, his friends must stand with him and they must take their beating together. I now know that within that edict lay the key to all living. None of us were promised to end the fight on our feet, fists raised to the sky. We could not control our enemy's numbers, strength, nor weaponry. Sometimes you caught a bad one. But whether you fought or ran, you did it together, because that is the part that was in our control. What we must never do is willingly hand over our own bodies or the bodies of our friends. That was the wisdom. We knew we did not lay down the direction of the street, but despite that we could and must fashion the way of our walk. I love that. We must fashion the way of our walk. And indeed we must. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty Hine is next, followed by Lori Powell.
Hi, I'm Patty Hine. I live in the county and consider Eugene my city. I'm here on behalf of 350 Eugene. 350 is the parts per million of carbon dioxide in a livable atmosphere. When I was born in 1956, the parts per million were 314. They are now 404 and rising. I'm just keeping personal track. Thank you again for passing the one-of-a-kind, science-based climate recovery ordinance back in July of 2014. We are always very proud to be in the audience, like we were on Saturday at a workshop at OSU when a presenter from the Oregon Environmental Council described the amazing work you did to pass this reality-based binding plan to bring our community's emissions down to livable levels. We are delighted that with Alan Zelinka's leadership, we can look forward to more information on the ordinance's implementation. We know these things take time. We know our city staff is working at all levels to incorporate steps to bring emissions down. It is slow, but we expect that it is sure. I'm just speaking out tonight to remind council and staff that the window of opportunity to avert the worst effects of climate is rapidly closing. The Paris Climate Accords have now been signed, but I remind you, even if all the voluntary reductions of these countries are made, these only add up to 1% of that which is needed to keep us below catastrophic situation. So we believe that it's a people's movement that will lead the transition to a 100% renewable energy economy. It's already well underway. The Stanford study last year laid out that we have the necessary technology, and it's totally possible, but we are lacking political will. We believe that many cities can make this energy transition. They are leading it, because often our state and federal governments do not lead as they should with the speed that they should, if at all. Our work at Eugene's 350 chapter is to educate and activate our citizenry, because we think Eugene is the finest city in the world. We are proud that we are a leader. We want you to keep up the good work. We really have no time to lose, and the kids are counting on us. Thank you.
Lori Powell is next, followed by Amanda McCluskey.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Lori Powell, and I'm with 350 Eugene. I live in Ward 1, and I'm here tonight concerning the Climate Recovery Ordinance and addressing 3 domains: education, procedures, and moral standing. First, education. We applaud the council for taking the time to learn more about the climate science that is the foundation of the CRO. Let's add to this list of key concepts, such as those that Patty mentioned, the difference between 350 parts per million of carbon versus 400, which is where we're at right now. And let's take a look at the basic science behind why we're seeing such extreme weather, particularly extreme cold weather in certain parts of the world. You can use this information to counter those who think that Senator James Inhofe was justified in throwing a snowball out onto the Senate floor during last year's extreme cold back east, claiming global warming is a hoax. This passage is from The Guardian, and it reads, "The reliable, deep cold of the polar regions is part of what gives us a stable climate system. With extreme cold at the poles, the warm climate bands of lower latitudes are more stable and defined. That defined differentiation of climate bands keeps the polar vortex swirling in the Arctic. Cold reinforces cold, which keeps the climate bands steady. As the Arctic warms, the warmer air mixes more readily with the climate of lower latitudes, and the polar vortex bleeds into the other latitudes, bringing deep Arctic winter to more temperate regions. This is climate destabilization." Second, procedures. Concerning the Climate Recovery Ordinance 350 carbon budget, I understand that presentations and a vote on this critical piece of the CRO have been pushed up to May 18th and June 13th, respectively. My understanding was that these 2 events were to have occurred earlier, actually a year ago. I urge you not to push the presentation and vote out yet again. We have no time to lose. And finally, moral standing. A few weeks ago on Democracy Now!, internationally acclaimed journalist Amy Goodman interviewed the executive director of our Children's Trust, Julia Olshan, and Audrey Piper, one of the 21 youth plaintiffs in the federal constitutional case. Ms. Goodman asked about Eugene's CRO repeatedly. Julia did a beautiful job fielding these questions, interspersed with the video clips of the children who came before this council 2 years ago to testify on behalf of the CRO. This is just one example of how the international media is turning its spotlight on Eugene, underscoring how the CRO and the federal constitutional case are interrelated processes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amanda McCluskey is next, followed by Camille Baden. Or Baden.
Good evening. My name is Amanda McCluskey, and I'm Program Director at HIV Alliance in Eugene. I'm speaking today to ask for your support of NEDCO's CDBG application. So at HIV Alliance, we provide support for households for people living with HIV in 11 counties in Oregon, but specifically here in Eugene. We provide case management, medical case management, which includes access to a case manager, a nurse, a pharmacist, and other support staff, employment specialists, etc. Our programs help households who are living with HIV manage the disease and also deal with the poverty that often comes hand in hand for our households who are living with HIV. NEDCO has applied for the CDBG funds to purchase 4 units of housing, which they would prioritize for our households who are living with HIV in Eugene. And this would be extraordinarily helpful for us. A lot of our households struggle with the burden of the disease, which is difficult to manage and very expensive and involves multiple medications and extremely high adherence just to control the disease. Meanwhile, they're also living in poverty, faced with unemployment, difficulty with transportation, access to food, all of those things that people who are living in poverty struggle with, along with this very difficult to live with disease. So these 4 units would be extraordinarily helpful for us to have for our households who are living with HIV, and to stabilize, to access NEDCO's asset building programs, along with our stabilization services to help our folks manage their disease and decrease the burden on those households as well as the community as a whole, and move into self-sufficiency and stability. Thank you.
Camille Baden. Followed by Peter Graticelli.
Good evening. My name's Camille Vaden, and I am a resident of Willakinsey Crossing Affordable Housing through Cornerstone Affordable Housing. I'm just here tonight to say there is a desperate need for more affordable housing like the units that I live in. Before Cornerstone called me, I had come down with a nerve condition which prevented me from working. I became homeless. I was living in a trailer, an old camper in my sister's driveway. I see now that living in a Cornerstone property or an affordable housing unit like I live in, I'm accessed health care. Food for Lane County comes twice a month. I have resources available to me. And without this, I would still be living, or worse, not in a camper in my sister's driveway. I would be in the street. So please build more affordable housing units in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Graticelli is next, followed by Eric Reigers.
I'm Peter Graticelli. I live among the various wards, drift among them, kind of. Yes, I would like to address the interrelated issues of homelessness and climate change. To begin with, there's a lot of interrelated issues. Mostly addressing the audience here, as usual. I like this. I'm happy to see others are doing that as well in increasing numbers. So like if you all remember the history of these lands, there used to be some people that lived around here, which I continually remind you all of, a few hundred years ago, who lived in dwellings that they constructed together as a village, and they were just they would gather their food around here, the wapato, bulbs, and other foods that grew around here, and they didn't have homelessness or climate change as issues that would ever happen, and one might argue but in order to sustain our high population and high technology, we can't live like that anymore. But actually we can, generally speaking, live like that. We could totally live in teepees, and we can't sustain this high population off of the native plants necessarily anymore. Maybe we could if they were augmented with efforts at permaculture, but you could at least live in some small teepees, which, by the way, if a small teepee or a tent falls on your head during an earthquake, it doesn't kill you. It seems like provable housing to me, but it doesn't sustain capitalism and our death march towards climate change. And do we really enjoy this web of private relationships anyway? Is that a fun way to live? And does it make sense as a society for people to be putting an incredible amount of work into looking for work? Does this not sound stupid? But naturally we have a stupid society here. It's continuing to get stupider as we give the kids Adderall for being kids, and mushrooms are still illegal, so that's going to make us remain stupid for a while. Anyway, I live at Kesey Square next to the Spirit and the statue. You all should come visit my house and we'll talk.
Eric Reichers is next, followed by Karina May Williams, or Matt Williams.
Good evening. My name is Eric Reichers, and I live in George Polling's Ward 4. I'm here to speak for the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, specifically in regard to the Chamber's support of the Downtown Urban Renewal District and tax increment financing. We believe Eugene's downtown cultural and commercial vibrancy is reflective of the strength of the city's economic vitality that is apparent to both residents and visitors. As a community, we must prioritize strategic infrastructure investments that create an inviting and safe atmosphere. We know that downtown Eugene is home to many businesses and high-quality jobs, including a large portion of our growing technology sector. In order to continue to grow and support high-wage jobs in our community, it is essential that we invest in the necessary broadband infrastructure that will allow us to recruit and retain businesses and talent to our region. As a community, Eugene prioritizes public spaces in our farmers market. We need a plan that allows us to raise our standards and provide quality public spaces in our downtown core. We support strategic investments in large-scale improvements that provide more than just a facelift to our underutilized public spaces and allows us to show the world the pillars of our community. We strongly support a plan that allows our community to orchestrate a permanent home for the farmers that provide for Eugene. There are underutilized properties that sit vacant but that hold potential to give back to our community. We believe urban renewal is the appropriate tool to improve blighted buildings such as the old Lane Community College building, which has the potential to be transformed into a hub for both arts and innovation in our community. Extension of the Downtown Urban Renewal District and use of tax increment financing are the only viable ways to see all of these projects come to fruition. We strongly support and believe Council is best suited to make this educated decision to continue to move the vision for downtown forward on behalf of our community. Thank you.
Karina May Williams is next, followed by Charlene Strouch.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Karina McWilliams, and I'm here to talk about the Climate Recovery Ordinance. After the last City Council meeting, councilors issued statements regarding the CRO, requesting regular progress reports, as well as an increased level of initiative from the CRO task force. I would like to sincerely thank the City Council for all recent action concerning the climate ordinance. It's really uplifting to observe the refocused approach to the CRO that the City Council has adopted. However, as always, I would like to remind the City Council that climate change is that the climate change situation is a time-sensitive one. All extra delays will only make it increasingly more difficult to fully enact the ordinance. The more extreme the issue becomes, the more resources it will require for mitigation, effectively decreasing the chances of there being a clean and healthy atmosphere for future generations. I would also like to add that education concerning climate change is crucial, because without a thorough understanding of the science behind the risk that climate change presents, it will be exceedingly more difficult to enforce science-based legislation such as the CRO. Again, thank you for all the proactive steps taken up to this point, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you. Charlene Strout is next, followed by Shiona Martin.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of Head Start of Lane County for the CDBG grant. Head Start has been in the community for over 40 years, serving our homeless population and also our low-income families. Currently, we serve up to 1,200 families with a waiting list of about 500. Head Start provides not only education services for kids 0 to 5 years of age, but also provides family services such as housing, food, clothing, education, and medical needs. With the CDBG grant, it will continue to support us sustaining ourselves, especially in buildings, trying to make improvements to make them healthier, safer, and more secure. We have put in for our Whitaker Head Start. The Whitaker Head Start building actually also is hosting the Thanksgiving homeless turkey dinner, which serves up to 2,000 people here in our area. The grant would help support our building. We have a roof that's falling in, a chimney that's falling down, and a kitchen that cannot sustain the population that we serve at this point. And what we do know about serving our kids, especially with food, is that for some of these kids, this is the only meal they get, 2 meals a day. And we know how important that is for brain function. So I thank you for your consideration on the CDBG grant. Thank you.
Shiona Martin is next, followed by Julie Lambert.
Hello, my name is Shiona Martin, and I'm here to talk about the Climate Recovery Ordinance. I am very appreciative of the recent efforts to get the ball rolling on the CRO, and there's one particular thing I want to bring up that should be considered. Pollution is not only a bad thing on a global level, with CO2 as a greenhouse gas raising global temperatures, but it is also detrimental on a more immediate level. While rising temperatures would be catastrophic in the long run, pollution also is affecting the health of citizens all over the world right now. At one point in Mexico City, long considered to be the most polluted city in the world, 10,000 people died and 35,000 people were hospitalized each year due to air pollution, mainly from things like extreme asthma and lung cancer. This may seem like the extreme end of the spectrum, and it is, but similar things are happening in cities all over the world, and the health of citizens everywhere is being compromised. Again, thank you for your progress, and I hope the work continues.
Thank you. Julie Lambert is next, followed by Nick Mull.
Good evening. Thanks for everybody for being here tonight. We all took the time.
Introduce yourself, please, Julie.
Okay. My name is Julie Lambert. This is my first time. I live in Eugene. I work for Occupy Medical, and I'm a park steward for the Washington Jefferson Skateboard Park. However, my comments are my own. Oh, the WJ is an internationally known skateboard park, and the skateboard task force that put a tremendous amount of time and effort to make it something unique. People come from all over the world. We had a tournament this weekend, and I was embarrassed to explain what the fences were for. So now we have these huge, ugly fences that were certainly not in the vision of the skateboard task force that initiated this project that took years to complete. And it has failed. The people have moved, like Sue said, to the river, and some of the other people have just moved over to the horseshoe courts. They're just going to move from one place to the other. This is not a good solution. Faye and Eric DeBurr could have built about 68 Conestoga huts and taken some of these people off the streets for that $68,000 that, in my opinion, was wasted for these unfortunate people. Or we could have built more camps. The city is dwelling by us. I like your idea of the teepees, that's great. But we can't have tents or cars or sleeping bags, tarps. People don't want to see that. I think it's kind of a sort of NIMBYism. Also, there's another solution. Colorado and Utah have given people housing and counseling with much success. They have saved clients from the streets and saved taxpayer money. It costs less. It's documented. Okay, I've read that we have $20,000 slated for more ugly fences. Really? We know it fails and we're going to blow another 20 grand on this? Why don't we help the people? I counted those 297 people that Sue mentioned. We need to help these folks, not fence them out, because they're not going to go away. They don't have anywhere to go. So the people in Colorado and Utah have re-entered people into the community while we are attempting to alienate the less fortunate. We're talking about people, the large majority, who have mental, emotional, and physical disabilities. And this is how we help them. A year ago, I broke my shoulder.
Thank you.
Oh, damn. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Mall is next, followed by Erica Fortner.
Good evening, Council. I'm Nick Mall. I'm 16. I'm from South Eugene High School's EG350 club. I'm talking about the Climate Recovery Ordinance. 3 years ago, I presented a short presentation to the Council for Spencer View's Green Team on climate change, and since then, some progress has been made, but the CRO is the first real big step that the city has made, and I applaud you guys for that, and just wanted to continue to encourage the Council to be proactive in making Eugene a cleaner city. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica Fortner is next, followed by Joshua Purvis.
Hi, my name is Erica Fortner. I'm the owner of Kavian Craft Rituals, and I live in Ward 1. I wanted to address the crime and quality of life near my business and living space, specifically the area between 7th and 8th on Lincoln. I came to Eugene for a quality of life better than what I had in Brooklyn, New York, but I've found that it's actually worse where I am. I've been working very close with the police, trying to get some of the drug activity out. There's a lot of issues with the transient population and mental illness from what I've seen. Most of the issues I've had are actually with younger kids. I keep hearing a lot of business owners talk about the homelessness issue, and I don't actually think that it's the homeless issue that I'm seeing affect my business and my quality of life. It tends to be the younger kids, the drug activity. I can't walk my dog without seeing somebody buying or selling drugs. We're talking about heroin and meth. It's not just a little pot smoking on the street. So what I'm proposing is that some sort of camera device gets set up to help deter some of the crime. This is how New York deals with a lot of the crime-ridden areas. Upping the police task force, I know they're really strapped right now. Also the Red Hats, they stop about a block from where I am. So unless I pay for them, which I can't afford, I have to call someone else. I have to call the police or call Cahoots, and sometimes it's not an emergency. Cahoots does a really great job. They know how to deal with people who are dealing with mental health issues, and they kind of know people hanging out and know when there's a serious issue. So I'd like to see Cahoots get supported more. There was a suggestion that the Red Caps get pushed out because one of the security guards that I was talking to said that the downtown merchants have really seen an improvement in crime prevention with just having them around. Let's see what else. And also, like, I've just heard from the merchants locally in my area that it's a bad neighborhood, and that's the problem. But there's low-income housing, there's high-income housing, there are businesses making a lot of money there, there are businesses not doing as well, and I think that that's a poor excuse for why the crime is happening. I think it's totally fixable and preventable, and I have to go out and self-police, which becomes dangerous, and I'm pregnant, and I don't want to raise a kid under that. Thanks.
Joshua Purvis is next, followed by Carrie Walters Warren, it looks like.
Joshua Purvis, Ward 7, Technology Association, Oregon. LTD Downtown Transit Station, Woolworth Building, Lane Downtown Campus, Holt Center for the Performing Arts, Broadway Commerce Center, McDonald Theater, Downtown Athletic Club, and the Eugene Public Library. The LTD Downtown Transit Station, I used to catch the 82 bus to LCC where I study media arts. In the Woolworth Building, I meet regularly with the downtown Eugene merchants where we promote collaboration and vibrancy for more prosperous downtown Eugene. The Lane Downtown Campus, I meet regularly with the Eugene Film Society Board of Directors to plan events like the Summer Event Series on Kesey Square or All Hallows Eugene, a downtown Halloween event. The Holt Center for the Performing Arts have programmed events like the Big Mix, All Hallows Eugene, 72-hour horror film competition, which during this last year's event had more than 50 filmmakers from around Oregon compete. The Broadway Commerce Center, which houses the Barn Light, Sizzle Pie, and Killer Burger, regular and often supporters of Eugene Film Society events. Pivot Architects, John Stapleton and I are working on a proposal for the LCC downtown campus, the old one. McDonald Theater, I just hosted an event, TAD Talks, where we had speakers Tommy Anderson from Cultural Services, Andrew Nelson from the Lundquist College of Business, John Park from Suburban Projections, and others talk about downtown's developing innovation district. The Downtown Athletic Club, where I organized Hack for a Cause, that supported the 15th Night Initiative and other community partners who support and improve downtown livability. Eugene Public Library, with the 15th Night Catalyst team, meets regularly to work with us to develop a communication tool to keep at-risk youth off our streets. All the buildings and the developments I've mentioned have received support through tax increment financing. All have played a pivotal role in encouraging me to stay and work in downtown Eugene. As you consider expanding the Urban Renewal District to support fiber internet expansion, permanent farmers market, art and high-tech incubator, and improved public spaces, please realize that investing in these projects will continue the momentum of investment in our downtown area that keeps young professionals like me here. Thank you.
Carrie Walters Warren, I think it is here. And Gabrielle Warren is after that.
He's going to come up with me.
Good.
Thank you for your time. My name is Carrie Walters Warren. I am a counseling psychologist and an instructor at the University of Oregon, although my comments are my own, or are our own. Yes? Okay. Who here has donated food, donated clothing, helped out in any way possible? I'm sure many people up here, right? Excellent. And I want to say thank you, because that's essential work. That's life-saving work. That's important work. But unfortunately, it's temporary help. And I think everybody who has been out there doing this work knows that it's temporary help. And it's made temporary because of the unjust system, of the lack of resources and opportunities, and specifically for the unhoused, a lack of safe housing. You have the opportunity to create systems based on fairness and opportunity, or we have the chance to base it on fear, discomfort, and a desire to look the other way. And these fences seem to be a very expensive way of looking the other way. So I want to encourage you in your unique positions on the council to ask yourself, for any plans that you create, is this increasing access and opportunity, or is this creating one more barrier? And then let your answer to that guide your decisions. Thank you. And I think Gabriel has something he wants to say.
Just wanted to let you guys know that people can die because of these ugly fences.
Thank you very much. Christine Sunt is next, followed by Christine Diane Henderson.
Christine Sund, and I'm in Ward 2. Good evening to Madam Mayor and our councilors. I had originally prepared comments to deal with the audio in this room, but what's interesting is that this is the first time I'm sitting in the back, and the audio is much better in the back. I can actually hear something. I always thought sitting close up would help, but I've learned a lesson. But I'm going to talk about another type of improvement that's needed, and this is in the South Willamette Special Area Zone along South Willamette Street. We are looking at some really wonderful improvements that are going on our street right now. And this is thanks to the fact that a new traffic signal is being put in. Whether or not we need the traffic signal is another question, but as a result, some utility poles have come down, and it's really, really wonderful to see what can be done without the ugly utility poles in front of us. As I'm walking down the street, however, I see that there are still many other utility poles that need to come down beyond where the traffic signal area stops. So what I'm asking you to think about right now is the effect of those poles and the width of the sidewalk, which prohibits somebody in a wheelchair from passing. It's not just wheelchairs, it's walkers, it's baby strollers. It's the difficulty that those narrow sidewalks impose on many people who would like to be able to walk on South Willamette. I'm thinking that perhaps there's a way to get funding through ADA. It is an issue of accessibility, and I would encourage people who can look at possible grants to think about this as a way to improve access. We're making great strides in providing access for bicycles, but we're still not dealing with the elderly, those people who are challenged physically, and maybe one day I'll be one of them. I'm getting older with every minute. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing, for all that we have accomplished so far. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Christine Diane Henderson is next, followed Christine? Perhaps not. Okay. Susan Ban. Oh, you Christine? Yes.
My name is Christine Henderson, and I'm currently homeless. My story begins 8/16 of 2014. I was removed from 100% federally funded apartment that I had for 4.5 years and put on the streets. I lost my caregiver. I lost my service dog. I was attacked. I went to the mission, and I remained there 8 months before, again, I was kicked out on the streets. I have no criminal record. I currently have a rare blood disease that turns cancerous into multiple myeloma. I cannot believe that I have been through what I've been through and still not gotten housed. I'm here to vent my frustration that I have went to Safe Spot, I have went to Nightingale, I have tried St. Vincent de Paul 3 different times, I've been on Central Housing 3 different times, I lost my Section 8 completely. I've had it since I was 17. I've been disabled all my life. I still haven't got my SSI. I currently live in a car. And to hear that somebody is going to build a fence just flabbergasts me. The thought that not only is this fence going to be built, but it's going to cost more money to repaint it, to put it back up every time it gets pushed over. There's going to be people injured when they're drunk or high trying to climb over it to find shelter. I ask you to maybe go back to the drawing board and find a different solution for what's taking place. I think resources could be spent a lot better than what they're being spent. I have a 600 credit score. I was illegally unhoused, and I cannot get housed, and I cannot get one of the housing programs to come in underneath me and get me housed. It's a sad situation that we're living in when human life is not cared about. It's all about the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Van is next, followed by Brennan Besancon.
Thank you for listening to all of us tonight. My name is Susan Ban. I live in Ward 4. I'm here to support the CDBG Human Services Capital's facilities funding that does provide essential dollars that keep aging but high-value properties working for the benefit of our community's most vulnerable low-income individuals. The program effectively addresses 2 important issues in the community, both by maintaining and eventually increasing the supply of affordable housing, but also by effectively offering care and maintenance to aging facilities that offer very much needed services to the people living in those affordable housing units. So Shelter Care this year is seeking CDBG funding for roof replacement and relatively ordinary kind of maintenance things at facilities that are now 70 years old or older, and they are providing very essential services: homelessness, medical recuperation, emergency housing, supported housing for adults with psychiatric disabilities. They are facilities that would be very difficult to site elsewhere in the community and be very costly to replace. So the fact that there are CDBG dollars to help us maintain them makes them hygienic, safe, and functional for these very vulnerable populations is valuable. So thank you very much. I'm here just to encourage you to continue your support with the CDBG facilities nonprofit capital funding. Thanks.
Thank you. Brennan Besancon. I said it wrong, I'm sure, but I apologize.
Better than most. Good evening. My name is Brennan Besancon. I live on 17th Avenue in Ward 1, and I've come here tonight to speak in support of the downtown improvement projects that you'll be considering over the next few weeks. I'm really excited for what these 4 projects could do for our downtown. In particular, I'm excited for the proposed improvements to the farmers market. Every day I see the important role food production and service industries play in our local community. I work as a chef for local restaurants and catering companies, and I also work at the farmers market. Each week I get to see and serve thousands of local residents who come downtown to purchase their produce. Some of you are our regulars, so you know our community is incredibly supportive of our local farmers. But space at the farmers market is maxed out and farms are routinely turned away. We can do better for our residents and our farms. It is easy to forget that sometimes the farmers market is there for more than our neighbors coming to fill their kitchens. It is also where many of our local restaurants go to purchase their supplies, and I see this each weekend. A year-round farmers market will ensure greater availability for all our shoppers while making it easier for local businesses to support each other. I know that while you are considering whether or not to move these thought that was the timer projects forward, you're also considering how to fund them. So let me ask you, do you support these projects? Yes or no? I think that's all it comes down to. If you do, and I hope you do, then it doesn't seem like that tough of a question as to how you would fund the projects. Use the tool you already have, urban renewal. I don't believe voters will approve raising their taxes, but I guarantee we'll be thrilled to see these improvements in our downtown if you can make them happen without raising our taxes. Each day I see the results of all of your work to revitalize downtown, whether I'm working at Marché or the farmers market, or attending a show at the new Hi-Fi Music Hall, or eating at one of the new restaurants we have downtown. I see all of the families and businesses returning to downtown, so please, don't stop now. Finish the work you've started.
Thank you. Barbie Goossens is next, followed by Emily Ryman.
Good evening, councilors and Mayor Piercy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Barbie Goossens. I live in Ward 1, and I'm here this evening to speak in support of the downtown improvement projects the council is currently considering. First, though, I want to take a moment to thank Mayor Piercy for all your service these last 12 years. And I'd also like to thank Councilor Brown for serving the residents of our ward. I moved to Eugene 13 years ago, and I absolutely love living here. As far as downtown, I recall the pits, the vacant storefronts, and even being able to find street parking whenever I needed it. The past 5 years have been different, though. The pits have been filled, businesses are returning, and downtown is beginning to look like the vibrant city center it used to be. I was excited when I first heard about the improvement projects you're considering. My daughter and I go to the farmers market each week, and we love supporting our local farmers. But the space they use is insufficient, and the current design doesn't serve farmers or patrons well during the rainy months. Upgrades to the market space will benefit local farms, businesses, and residents well into the future and should be considered a direct investment in the health and economic vitality of our community. The park blocks need help too. They need amenities you expect to find in regular parks like bathrooms. Improving the park blocks and other open spaces throughout downtown will encourage more families and local residents to come and hang out downtown once again. I know that while you're looking at these projects, you're also considering how to fund them. And in my professional life, I'm a grant writer for Looking Glass, and so I have a deep understanding of the challenges and uncertainties faced when relying on grants to fund projects. It's my belief that if you really support these projects for our community, there's one good way to go about paying for it, and that's the urban renewal plan. I know that some of you oppose urban renewal, but I ask you to please consider the benefits of these projects and what they can bring to our community. There really isn't another funding option on the table that guarantees these projects move forward. And I ask you to please put these benefits of the projects above your opposition to urban renewal in general. We have some amazing assets downtown that, fortunately for us, past generations and community leaders had the vision to leave for us. I believe that this is our opportunity to do something for the generations coming after us. We don't get a lot of opportunities like this and may not again, and I hope you agree and support these downtown improvement projects moving forward now. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Ryman is next, followed by Scott Bartlett.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Emily Ryman. I live in Ward 7, but I'm actually here as the Executive Director for NEDCO, the Neighborhood Economic Development Corporation, which is, among other things, an affordable housing developer. I'm here for two reasons. The first is to do a report back on our most recently completed project. 16 months ago, the Council allocated both home and CDBG funds so that NEDCO could acquire and rehab a 12-unit apartment complex for young adults aging out of the foster care system. I'm here very proudly to say that that project is done. and it's now fully occupied, unfortunately with a waiting list, but the youth who are there and occupying it are an amazing group of young people who are students and they're employees at local businesses and they're advocates for other youth aging out of foster care. They've made that apartment complex home when many of them otherwise would have been homeless. They're continuing to be served by Looking Glass. They have access to NEDCO's full slate of asset building programs, and they are really a just amazing, phenomenal group of young people. That project would not have been possible without support from the city at every level, from staff up to the council and the mayor, and I thank you for it. I'm also here tonight, secondly, to talk about the next project that we have before you tonight. And I also just want to clarify that it's actually a home funds request that's in front of you this evening. And that is for a similar project in partnership with the HIV Alliance. You heard a little bit about the need of that community earlier this evening. And I would just like to add that, once again, we've received tremendous support from the city throughout the development of this project. And NEDCO is looking forward to being a resource for people in our community living with HIV and AIDS, as well as their families. And thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Scott Bartlett is next, followed by Chris Califf.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, honorable councilors, I'm not here to criticize necessarily the altered prices for the proposed city council, but I'd really like you to really fulfill your oversight function. I really don't think in the conduct of our city government that the tail should wag the dog. I didn't engage in the big debate about whether we should keep the old city hall of 100,000 feet or replace it, but the argument was that it was seismically unfit, it was necessary to demolish it, and that when the new council would be built, there would be offices for councilors, and it would be seismically sufficient to withstand an earthquake. But all of a sudden I see Jan Bauman on the news saying, well, there'll be no city council offices. I really think that as the city is growing, we see this in LTD, we see the expansion, we just feel it, that the city council will take on a greater and greater responsibility. And I've heard more and more comments about how ultimately it'll be a city commissioner form of government requiring a charter change. Time will tell about that. But if you had offices, and I know it pales in comparison to the tale of two cities and the sad things we've heard tonight, but if you had offices in the new city council, you had interns, you could have weekly meetings, people would come as a central focal point. And yet, how did that decision come to pass? Who decided that there all of a sudden, regardless of whether you build the $18 million or $17.5 million one, or the extra earthquake protective one at $6 million more, who made that decision? Did this council sign off on it? In fact, did this council sign off even on having a one-year delay in construction? And did this council sign off on the new project? I mean, these are our questions. Without besmirching or questioning which is wisest, that's your bailiwick. But there's been a lot of vague, unanswered areas. And I really ask you to provide oversight functions. We need you to do that, and we need to hear those answers. I really think it's important, because there's a tremendous amount of public skepticism, and that doesn't help the city. And I thank you for your time.
Chris Califf is next, followed by Michael Gannon.
Good evening. Thanks for taking the time to hear me here. I'm here to, my name is Chris Califf. I'm from Ward 2. Thank you, Betty, for your service. And I'm here to speak about unhoused issues. I was involved in the Occupy movement a few years ago. And I'd like to thank the city for I know that there's been progress made, and that there are more beds available, and there are the car camps, and I know that many people on the city council, I know Mayor Piercy, care very much about this issue. So don't take this as a personal attack, but I had to come down here because of the fence issue, mainly because I'm profoundly disappointed that while we have progress being made on the one hand, on the other hand, there's an incredible disconnect that would spend city money to to prevent people from being sheltered, and there is no other place for these people to go. So I feel that you would not treat an animal this way in our society. You don't make human beings sleep under bushes, and if there's a car structure that could provide a little shelter from the rain and we fence all of those off, it's disturbing to me that our city would do that in the face of the fact that we're perpetually reminded that we don't have the budget to provide more shelter for people. And if budget is a problem, how can we spend $67,000 to prevent people from taking shelter? And I'd like to know whether that $67,000 could, I mean, did anyone call cahoots and ask them what they could do with 67 grand, or Occupy Medical, or a Burrito Brigade? I mean, there's many good services in this town that are starved for money, and yet $67,000 is being spent in such a negative way. And I have to, again, remind you, as I did a few years ago when I was with Occupy, that this is a profound class issue as well, and that if there was a disaster in South Eugene and many of those million-dollar mansions came down the hill in an earthquake and we suddenly found hundreds and hundreds of people with no house in South Eugene, do you think that we'd send cops to take away their tents and whatever? You know, do you think that we would not be able to find any kind of shelter to put a whole lot of wealthy people from South Eugene under a roof if they were in sudden disaster? But instead we have an economic disaster that's ground people into the dirt, and those people, because they're poor, they don't get respect, and they don't apparently have lawyers to sue the city when they lose one of their members, like we just did on Saturday. But a death happened there, and it was purely preventable, because if we had housed these people, they wouldn't have died. So I hope that more progress can be made, and that every time we have a decision like this, that you all are able to think about it and say, if this was my grandmother, would I fence her out from under this overpass? Because that's the only place she's been able to go. So thank you for your time.
Michael Gannon is our last one today.
Good evening. My name is Michael Gannon. I live all over the city, and I have for most of the last 50 years. I've even had a number of other projects in the community. Today I find myself, though, wondering if I could try to help the community sort through the $67,000 fence issue, which sort of camouflages some of the other issues that are really around. I'm finding myself wondering if Angela Merkel, the head of the German government, has considered building fences under their freeways to keep the Syrian refugees out. Already they have more than 1 million. And it's quite troubling to the people of Germany. We have one Syrian in Eugene, and I don't think he's worried about those fences. But we have a lot of other refugees of a chaotic society that is building its own grave. And it's striking that you would spend $67,000 without even having a community hearing to discuss the extreme dangers that these refugees are presenting. It misses the chance to see that they are pursuing a pretty normal response to a system that is out of control in so many ways. I also wondered where would Nelson Mandela be down there by the fence? It'd be hard for him to be inside. But I think you would have the sensation that he was dealing with the same out of control, in his case, white colonial government, that a lot of young people and older people like myself feel like we're doing right here in Eugene. I've mentioned a few times that Eugene is failing to enforce the state law regarding pedestrian crossings. It would be so simple for less than $67,000 to put a few police cars out there where pedestrians, people who are in fact not expending enormous amounts of carbon can't cross the street safely.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public forum. And before I turn to council for any comments, I don't usually respond to things that people just say at these meetings, but the thing that was said tonight matters so much to me that I do want to correct it. Let me be clear that anyone who knows me knows that I strongly disagree with Commissioner Stewart's comments regarding refugees in the Asian community. I've been very clear about that. I have also been quoted as saying, I have found Commissioner Stewart straightforward and kind to deal with. And that's true, too. And I would also say that we disagree on almost everything, including this. So I'm a strong supporter and have been ever since I've been mayor of all the members of our community who are part of the Asian community, and I'm also a strong supporter of refugees finding a home in our community. I'll turn to other people to see what they... Councilor Brown.
Is it time for our comments? No, not to speak to what you just said.
Comment.
For just
comments.
No, yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for coming to discuss the fence again. The fence solves a very local problem. The trash was cleaned up around the fenced-off area, but it didn't really solve. It didn't do anything to solve the problem, because everybody went everywhere else, and down by the river and so on, and there messes are being created there that the Parks Department will clean up later in the year. Last year, the Parks Department spent $250,000 cleaning up 715 individual homeless campsites along Amazon Creek and the Willamette River. Half that money would have opened up a whole bunch of rest stops, 20 people each. We won't solve it all in 1 year. And I mean, by the way, a rest stop is not the ideal solution. However, it is a very good temporary solution, and we've seen that they work. And so, I know that the Human Rights Commission has asked for a list of city property. This is the fourth time I've asked for a list. And this is the type of list I've asked for 3 times before. I'd like to see a list of all city-owned property and Urban Renewal Agency property that is either vacant, unused, or surplus. And that's where we'll start. Now, once council has this list, we can figure out funding methods. And I think some of this cleanup stuff, I don't see why it couldn't fund some of these camps. I don't think we should have to depend on donations from the community. And the faith-based community has done a tremendous amount of work, but I think that they're getting kind of tapped out, and I think some of the private donations are starting to get tapped out. And if we're going to spend $67,000 on a fence and $250,000 to clean up along the river and Amazon Creek, the city can surely afford to invest in a few more rest stops and keep adding them regularly. And I think we should assist Occupy Medical. But they're because of the circumstances described, their load is increasing, and they're probably over capacity right now, and yet they struggle on. And so I think that would be a very prudent investment to help them, continue and expand their operation. But the first step is we have to get that list. I really don't want to be here like 2 months later listening to these other stories and find out a couple more people have died, and we still don't have the darn list. I mean, so please, Assistant City Manager, please make that happen. Thank you.
Councilor Pryor.
Yeah, I appreciate all the people coming out and listened carefully to everybody, and that goes in. I'm processing that, so I do think this is an important forum. I did want to speak to a couple of the items on the consent calendar, so we didn't have to pull them off. Items C and D, which is the planned use for community development block grant funds and the affordable housing for low-income projects. I had a chance to evaluate and review the 3 projects that are listed under item D, the River Road Apartments, the Monroe, and the Delta Court Phase 2, and they were all very worthwhile projects. The money is there to fund them. I think they will make great strides towards specific targeted populations, so I would also wholeheartedly support those projects, and I think the continuation of the community development block grant funds is a very worthwhile use of money that goes to great community human service providers. So I just want to throw my support to both C and D, since as part of the consent calendar you don't normally get to comment, but they are worthwhile projects.
Councillor Taylor and then Councillor Zelenka.
Thank you. I'll borrow the mic that I'm sharing with Councillor Clark. Mike's mic. Thanks to everyone who came to speak. I am opposed to the fences. I do want to clarify that council did not make a decision to put the fences up. I learned about it in the newspaper, I think, and from having people call me or write me about it. Nor did we make the decision to spend money to take down a bench at Broadway and Willamette, or the other places to sit downtown. Somebody else made those decisions. People do have to be somewhere. And I hope that we've made some progress on allowing people to have places to sleep. But I hope that we will spend more of the federal money that we have on shelters, and instead of the apartments are fine, but we could take care of more people if we had shelters for transitional housing. I also think that shelters for homeless people should be at the top of our agenda for state, lobbying the state. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the item D, the affordable housing units, before we voted on them, just to say that the River Road Apartments, 4 units for HIV and AIDS people, and the Monroe project, 6 units and it's targeted at veterans, homeless veterans, and then the Delta Court Phase 2, 28 units, looking at housing for people under 60% of the average medium income, and that includes 8 units for homeless veterans as well. So the numbers aren't great, but once these things are in place, they're in place for a very long time, and they certainly start to make a dent in all of this. So keep chipping away at it with these home funds. And could we use home funds for a shelter? I understood we could not, but Stephanie.
I know she's back there.
Stephanie's here. I didn't want you to go stay here all night and then not have to answer a question, Stephanie.
No, yeah, we want you to stay here all night and answer all the questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So to answer your specific question, Councilor Zelenka, so the Home Investment Partnership Program is specifically for the development of permanent affordable housing. And so community development block grant funds, however, can be used for emergency and transitional housing, as well as permanent housing.
But it would displace all those other things that we've been hearing about all evening if we started to use CDBG money for that.
Well, I would say that part of what we are proposing that I will speak to in the action is that some of these facilities are providing emergency and transitional housing that we are seeking to allocate funding to be able to preserve. So I would say there's actually quite a wide range of different activities that are all directed to address the needs of low-income people, homeless populations, and special needs populations within our community.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd just like to, I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but you know the county's Poverty and Homeless Board has just put their strategic plan together, which really lays out the really ambitious plans for housing first, housing people, dealing with a lot of these issues. So, and this is part of that too. But anyway, I wanted to put that out to you all. And in terms of the NEDCO site for that 12 units for people coming out of foster care, I always feel like I want to make a pitch about that because I think we know who our foster kids are. They're already in our custody as they grow up. We know when they're going to come out. So really, there is no reason that we couldn't reach out and help them as they begin their journey into independence. And that's something that you can identify and do something with more easily than probably any other population you can think of. So as we look to how we can make a dent, it will really make a difference because a lot of the kids on our streets are coming out of foster care systems. So I think we really ought to take seriously this sort of very discrete path that could get really big results for the lives of a lot of people. So I would recommend that. And I wanted to tell you that we as a council are going to be talking about the range of programs and PHP strategy and all of those things at our May 11th council meeting, so we can all get up to the same speed on everything that's out there. So you're welcome to tune into that as well. Now I'm going to move on to the next thing on our agenda, and that's our consent calendar. Council President.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded, including the wonderful C&D. All right. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2.
I vote yes.
And Councilor Pauling?
I vote yes.
Thank you. That's 8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Thank you very much. And next up, Stephanie's still here, so she's ready to talk with us about the Eugene Springfield 2017 one-year action plan.
All right. Thank you. So before you tonight is proposed action for the Eugene Springfield one-year action plan. As a reminder, this is a document that is required by HUD in order for us to receive our federal funds from HUD, including the Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Program funds. The action plan and the allocation that is included in the AIS was developed pursuant to the consolidated plan, which was adopted by Council last year, that establishes goals and strategies for the use of the CDBG and home funds. The strategies within the plan, there are 4 affordable housing strategies that are encompassed within the plan, and 3 community development strategies. The 3 community development strategies include creating a human service delivery system to support the needs of homeless people and people with special needs, expanding economic opportunities for low and moderate income people, and then thirdly is making strategic investments in low-income neighborhoods to improve those neighborhoods. The proposal that you have in front of you was developed in collaboration with the Community Development Advisory Committee that advises staff on the development. So we met multiple times with staff to develop this recommendation. And then the home funds is developed in collaboration with the Eugene Springfield Home Consortium Governing Board, which includes Mayor Piercy and Councilor Pryor as part of that body. The actions included in this include a range of funding for different types of housing. As you heard tonight, we have had quite a special focus on looking at human service capital facilities. We received multiple viable project proposals through the RFP, through the action that you've taken on the consent calendar, as well as the action plan. We're trying to create a pool of funding that will allow us to move forward working with the agencies to refine their scopes of work and budget estimates to move forward with the projects that they've proposed. We do anticipate coming back to council with the specifics on those projects, but by having the pool of resources and budget, we know what we can come back and propose within that overall budget. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have
Any questions?
regarding the action plan.
It's seeing none. Yes?
No, I have comments when it's
Well, then make
time.
a comment.
Okay. Well, I want to appreciate
the comments of my fellow counselors about the other funding that we approved in the consent calendar, and then I just wanted to say, well, thank everyone who's worked on this plan. I know it's a lot of work coordinating with Springfield and all the agencies that provide social services and identifying projects. And I just want to call out that these projects and the ones that we approved in our prior motion for the community development block grants and the affordable housing projects, in my mind, really represent the best of what we can offer for people in need. We have excellent social services in this community. Obviously, the need outstrips our capacity to serve everyone. But I think, we can be proud of the work that we are able to do with the funding we have. We do still need more rest stops, I believe, and car camping sites to help people who are currently living on the streets. But we also need to keep funding the social services that we have that help prevent people from becoming homeless. And I also want to agree with Councilor Brown's comments that I think as a city we should be looking for funding, which may need to come from our general fund, for Occupy Medical and for our rest stops. And I feel like we should make a stronger commitment. I know the city is supporting Occupy Medical in some ways, but not necessarily with direct funding. So I'm supportive of us looking for those additional items to help our nonprofits who support the rest stops and other funds that aren't eligible through the community development block grants and some of this home fund that we are accessing for other social services. So,
anybody else? Okay, I think we're ready to vote on this.
Okay. I move to approve the Eugene Springfield 2017 one-year action plan summary for use of federal CDBG and home funds in FY17 provided in attachment B.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ready? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please indicate. Okay,
I vote yes.
Okay, it's 8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Thank you. Next up is the Broadway Plaza, or Kesey Square, or many of the other names we call it, update. As you recall, I told you that I would go, we talked about it at our council meeting, and I said I would go and try to see if we could get to a win-win with the stakeholders who are involved in this. And I can go on and talk about this unless you have another thing you would like to do.
No, I think you can start, and Denny is here to help fill in the
add to, yeah, there he is.
Yeah, there you go.
And
The
add
details.
to this I was looking for you over here, Denny, and there you were over there. Okay, so anyway, Denny was there and Nan was there, Dan Lawrence, and we had a meeting. In fact, Denny had two meetings. He had a first meeting, and then we had a second meeting. And the meeting included Ali Amami and Otto Patricia and Mark Mixus from all the three entities that were interested in this. And I first expressed that I appreciated the intentions of everybody there, their care for their community, their interest in improving public space and housing. And I'll just run through what I said, and then, Denny, you can kind of add to it or correct me, whatever. So Ali Amami, who owns a rug store that is around the square, and he also owns the building that the donut store is in. So he owns the adjoining property. And his statement at the meeting was, while he's interested in housing, he does not think it's the time. It's his belief that to get the clients he desires in housing, there would have to be underground parking. He is not interested in selling his property or any type of partnership. He feels he's had to put up with a lot of undesirable behavior over the years, and he only wants what's best for the city. He supports keeping the square a public space and wants to work with the city. Accurate?
I think that's pretty correct, yes.
All right. Otto Patricia expressed an interest in process as opposed to a proposal. Although he did propose that the city decide what it wants and then open it up to interest. He supports council deciding to build or develop on the plaza or keep the plaza open, and that once they've made that decision, then the paths will open from there and the process will go from there. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Denny?
No, I think that's accurate at this point. I think he's really interested in consulting with the city, Mr. Pratisha.
He's really interested in placemaking. And Mark Mixes represents the development proposal. He believes this would be good for downtown. The proposal was developed at the request of DEI. In any case, he asks that a decision be made. He notes that without the cooperation of the owner of the adjoining property, the housing options are limited to their proposal. He expressed frustration with the current condition and use of the plaza.
Yeah, I think their biggest issue is they've spent really a lot of time, a lot of effort, and engaged a lot of community members, and they would like to move forward one way or the other, and so I think they're anxious to hear back from the city regarding their proposal so that they can either move forward or not move forward.
Right. And so there is no apparent win-win on housing. The question remains, does council want to accept the development proposal? There is agreement on the need to make the plaza function well for everyone. So that's something that they all agreed on. So that's what I have to share with you. Any questions? Okay. That's it, I guess, unless you have something more you want to add.
The only thing I want to mention is that in previous discussions with council on downtown improvements, we got a lot of feedback from council regarding the need to really engage the community about open spaces, and we've talked about the park blocks, the City Hall Plaza, the Holt Plaza, Broadway Plaza, and the new riverfront. And we have issued an RFP for some help to really kind of gauge what kind of expertise is out there to really go into some public engagement process that would ultimately inform a placemaking plan for some or all of those spaces and how they connect. And we've heard a lot about safety and design and bathrooms and programming and all the things that go into public space. So we intend to continue to push forward on that community engagement process, and hopefully we'll get some qualified folks that will help us, at least help inform what the next steps might be for some of these spaces, because it's complicated. There are just a lot of issues involved in all of these spaces and how they function and how they connect.
Councilor Taylor?
Thank you. Could we at least vote to say that Kesey Square is not for sale? We settle that much?
That's up to you all.
Okay.
That's a motion.
I move that we declare that Kesey Square is not for sale. It's public property.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay. Yes, Councilor Brown?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been opposed to selling off public property and privatizing it. And we've had many people speak here, and to me it is clear that the community does not want this to devolve into private commercial space. We've heard many eloquent and well-informed and long-lived residents here who oppose this idea, and we've heard it from a lot of people that work downtown and live downtown, and they're appalled at the idea of losing that space. Now, pretty much everyone agrees, and I do too. It needs help. We need to invest a little energy and a little money into it. But it's a wonderful public space, and I will tell you, people would just be outraged if we ever let it go. And I do not support selling it. Thank you.
Councilor Surratt?
So I have a question for the maker of the motion. Is this forever, in perpetuity?
Yes.
Not sale right now? And then I have a question for the city attorney. The square is not implicated in the urban renewal district, right? So we don't need to be the urban renewal agency to have this conversation?
No, it's city property.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Clark?
Well, I would wonder about the propriety of the motion, considering that this council can't bind any future council to make up their mind to do what they like. But I suppose that's a side note from the point I really wanted to make, excuse me, which is that I put out a work session poll so that we could talk about city things being bought and sold and under what conditions, and I'm hopeful that we can have that work session and talk through some of these details before we make any decisions, and that's the reason I'm going to vote no, not because I want to keep it open and sell it or keep it, or either way. I want to have a discussion about why and how we do these things and how much notice and everything else before we make this decision. So that's why I'll be voting no.
Councillor Evans?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Kesey Square was not always Kesey Square. I've been here 30 years, and if I remember correctly, there was something else there when I came here 30 years ago, and I think it was in private hands. Is that correct?
I don't remember the exact date, and maybe Denny does, but it was a private building at one point,
It was
yes.
a private building, and it was torn down, and we built a fountain, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So I'm with Councilor Clark on this one. I think that we should vet this fully, and that we should have the conversation, discussion about what we do with public property. You know, there's other public, places that we have, I'm quite sure have disposed of over the years into private hands, and we've done different things with different pieces of property, but whatever is in the best interest of the city. So we should have a discussion on where we land in terms of how we formulate that policy. And so that's one of the reasons why I supported the work session poll that Councilor Clark put out, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, that received a majority of votes for us to move forward with that work session. I think I saw that this afternoon when I was reading my email. So that's why I'll be voting no.
Councillor Pryor?
Thank you. I was very gratified when Denny talked about beginning a new engagement process. In my mind, win-win version 1.0 was let's get together with the original folks and see if that could be worked out. To me, what's even more valuable is the win-win version 2.0, which is a much more extensive community engagement process, which is what I would love to see all along, where we really talk about what can be done there. And I think in order to do that in a really thoughtful and deliberate way, you have to be willing to talk about all of the different options and all of the different people who might have ideas for doing something. Really open it up and truly engage people. And so I think to say we want to have an open and candid and thoughtful discussion only if you go the way I want you to go is really not an open, thoughtful, and candid discussion. And so I think voting on something before we have the true engagement process is kind of like dictating where the course is going to go before you've even started sailing. And I think it's good to have a course, but the course shouldn't be, a different place. So I'm going to vote no on this motion, not because I necessarily disagree with the notion of keeping Kesey Square open, but I'm going to vote no because I think if we're going to have a true engagement process, it needs to be one where we can talk about all of the options, consider them all very carefully, and be thoughtful. And so an 11th hour motion to have a sudden vote at 9:30 at night, to me, feels a little kind of fast to be really thoughtful and deliberate. So that's my reason for voting no, but I want to be clear. It's because I want a full and complete and thoughtful process of engagement that is, for me, the true win-win 2.0.
So I have Councillor Zelenka, and then I have in the second round 3 people, Councillor Brown, Taylor, and Surratt. But I wanted to point something out to you. In this particular case, one of the folks that was at that meeting is not interested in developing something. One is, in fact, 2 are not interested in developing something, and one is. And the one that is would really like to know, in the short run, go or no go. So I think in their case, just prolonging the discussion to them doesn't seem to be helpful unless you want to prolong the discussion with the intention of seeing if you want to develop that property. They just need to know because it's they've invested a lot and this has been hanging around for a long time. I see that as a separate discussion from how we go about making these kinds of decisions. And I think I agree with you totally. I think we need to talk about how we go about making these kinds of decisions. But in this case, one party has told you, no, My property around that, I don't want to do anything with that. And the people who want to develop are saying, if you're not really interested, would you please let us know so we can stop futzing around with this, because it's cost us time and energy, and we just don't want to do it anymore if you don't want to go. So they're just asking, in this case, not for every piece of property the city owns, they are asking you, tell us the direction that you want to go. So I don't know if you guys want to separate these things, but I'm just telling you, to my understanding, that is how they would like it to be. So I'm agreeing with you, and I'm agreeing with you to some extent, but I'm just saying, think about what this means to the people who are involved in this. Councilor, I've got Councilor Brown, Councilor Taylor, Councilor Surratt. I mean Zimmer, and Councilor Lingo goes first.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Councilor Polling, he hasn't had a round either.
Pardon me? I'm up. Oh, you're first.
Yes, he is. He hasn't had a turn yet.
Oh, sorry.
And did you get Councilor Polling?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm not done thinking about this and talking about it. Doing nothing doesn't really work for me. I'm not sure about spending a whole lot of money on Kesey Square to improve it, or whether or not that's the best use of our scarce resources. This is the best plan to go forward. And I understand all the people's comments about why they like the space the way it is. So I haven't come to a conclusion about any of that yet. I would like to go through the work session on public notice about public properties and disposal of them. So for those reasons, I'm going to vote no on the motion tonight.
Councilor Polling.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you know, my preference is, and I'm counting the votes in my head, but if it was up to me, I would put a motion out tonight to direct the city manager to proceed with selling the property to the 2E project, and use the proceeds of the sale of the property for improving the downtown park blocks. But I don't think I have the votes around the table. My concern with setting out with Councilor Clark's work session in reference to this project is it's going to delay it, and the group that's interested in developing that property may not be around when we get finished with the process. I am going to vote against Councilor Taylor's motion because I feel that property is valuable to the downtown redevelopment that's been going on, and I just wish that we could move forward with the current proposal that was given to us. That we have to remember, they came to the city asking. We didn't do the outreach. They came saying, "Hey, we've got this idea to help improve downtown." We've had that happen one other time, and we've just recently voted on that a couple of weeks ago, where some city property was not listed for sale, and that's what sparked Councilor Clark's motion. We acted on that one and moved forward with that one. So. At this point, I'm a little disappointed that we're not going to be taking action to move forward with the 2E project, but I will vote against the motion by Councilor Clark. Councilor Taylor, I'm sorry.
Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. The potential developers, they're developing a property right across the street, so they're going to have a nice project. They don't need this project. They will survive and prosper if they don't get if they don't get Kesey Square. There's also no one has brought up the little problem of the deed restriction. Deed restriction is pretty clear to me. I think that this is so controversial that there would be a court battle. That's my guess. I've heard that people are having their attorneys research it. The Urban Renewal Agency gave this property to the city with a deed restriction that it be forever used as open space, so open public space. So I think we getting ourselves in big time trouble. Maybe we don't even have to do this vote tonight. I'm willing to withdraw my second if Councilor Taylor's willing to withdraw her motion, and we can go ahead and have the work session that Councilor Clark requested and that I supported. I do have some questions, and Then you said that the city was issuing an RFP for this property?
No. We, if you remember when we were talking about the park blocks open space,
right.
We got pretty strong message from the council that said we really need to engage the community, and not only the broad community, but this new emerging neighborhood that's coming forward downtown, and really, that would help inform kind of what happens and what's our next steps. And again, these open spaces downtown are unique in that they're in such dynamic places. There's just so much going on, and more people, and more activity, and more different various uses that we feel like we need to bring in some extra expertise to guide us through a process, basically, to really inform what the next steps are for all of those public spaces, not just Broadway Plaza, or not just the park blocks. Just really looking at the whole system.
Does this mean hiring outside consultants?
That is what the RFP is to someone that could
see.
help us through a public engagement process that would ultimately lead to a placemaking plan for those public spaces.
So this is, okay. Well, I mean, it's no big deal to make that a much more interesting, much more active space. Many cities in the United States have lots of really cool small parks, and then the examples in Europe are, you can't even count them all. There's so many great small spaces like that that are well used. So I don't know. And when will this process be done? Your estimate?
It's a partnership between Cultural Services and Planning and Development, and I think the RFP is out for 30 days or something in that neighborhood. I don't recall exactly.
Okay, but you said that the Parks blocks is included in this as the farmers market?
There's really 5
included in this.
There's the 5 public spaces we've talked about are the park blocks, which includes the farmer market, because it's part of the original park blocks. The whole plaza, the new City Hall Plaza. It could include Kesey Square, depending on what council's intent is there, and the new Riverfront Park. And really,
I see. Will this report be? Pardon me. Will this report be done before the deadline for submitting an urban renewal amendment to the ballot? Seems to me like that's coming out. That would be in June. I forget what Attorney Klein said.
It's probably not likely that all of that work and we would have a placemaking plan done by then, but the public engagement part of it would at least be in process at that point.
I see. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Taylor?
Thank you. This spot was given to the city by the Urban Renewal District to be used for public space forever. And we shouldn't even be discussing whether to sell it or not. I did vote for Councilor Clark's work session on selling public property. If we have surplus property, I think we should have a discussion about how to sell it. But this was not surplus property. It is public space, and I think we should quit talking about what to do with it so that people can relax and know that it's safe. There are many people who are concerned about it, and I don't think this should be a part of the discussion. If someone comes and says, I'd like to buy Tugman Park, are we going to have a big discussion about whether to sell it to them or not? It's a different thing from if there's a little bit of space somewhere that the city owns that we're not using, then that's what we need to discuss. How would we go about deciding what to do with it, whom to sell it to? But it would be better for everybody if we just said this is not for sale, which it never should have been in the first place. Thank you.
Councilor Charette?
Thank you. So I appreciate my fellow councilors' comments about process, and I don't appreciate 11th hour motions, but I have been thinking about the issue of the Broadway Plaza, Kesey Square, since we had, the outpouring of public comment. I do really like the E2B project, but I've landed in a place where I don't think we should sell the square. I had mentioned idea of a win-win at that last council session that we had discussed it, and my vision, which may not be practical or feasible, was the idea that we would retain public ownership of the square but support commercial activities of some kind on it to make it a more active and vibrant space and maybe offset some of the cost of public investment in the square. So all that being said, I would, with some reluctance because of the process issue, support the motion to affirm that we will not sell the square.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I recognize the importance of your point that these folks would like an answer, or at least some kind of point of direction. But I think we all know, as was mentioned previously, that this was a proposal that they brought to us.
Right.
Now, I know that several of my colleagues were informed over the course of time about the development of this plan and those folks' thoughts. I, however, was not until just before we were asked to make a decision. And so, from my perspective, the public controversy that ensued was due in part to how it was presented to us. And that's not on us, per se. So if they'd wanted it to go more smoothly, they may have presented it in a different fashion. So I don't have any problem with the fact that we can't answer them quickly. I will say that I put forward the work session poll because people ought to be equal before the law. And we either have a process for how we consider everybody's rights fairly or we don't. And in this case, we don't have the right process in place to be able to treat people fairly and to be able to avoid controversy in this way and to serve the most number of people well. So I certainly hope we come out of this with a better sense of where the council is on these sort of questions in the future, because there are a lot of issues involved. So again, that's why I'll be voting no, because I don't want to put out the appearance that we're willing to accept something that looks like it could be a sweetheart deal. It's just not good public policy. So, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what Mike just said. A lot of people have been talking about making this a great space as if money were free, without much consideration about what we want there, without what it would cost, or where we would get the money, or what we would do if we had the money. What would we not do if we did something at Kesey Square, if we spent $1 million fixing that up, making a great space, and whether or not spending it at Kesey Square would be our best opportunity to spend money on parks. There's so much need in our system that just willy-nilly saying that's it because it's the hot topic du jour doesn't make any sense to me. Stepping back away from that and looking at that a little bit more clearly with some more perspective about other options seems a lot more sensible and practical to me. And so I think all of those questions I just asked and others need to be discussed and answered before we make any decisions about the square.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
We're not talking just now about spending money or what to do with it. We don't need to do that at all. My motion is just to say that we're not selling it. Thank you.
So, I think we're ready to vote on the motion, which is not to sell. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3. In opposition? 1, 2, 3, 4. Councillor Poling?
I vote in opposition.
5. It does not pass. So that's where we are. I guess the conclusion of that is we have not said we're not going to sell, and we have not said we're going to develop. That would be the conclusion. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.